In a perfect world, the most simple solution would be the solution, right? The straight through line. In this case, wouldn't it be great if it was just as simple as that? That a young man who didn't like Charlie Kirk brought his rifle to a Charlie Kirk event and killed Charlie Kirk. Like, if that was the straight through line, if that's what happened, great. But then you have all of this external noise happening. And that makes people ask a lot of questions. For those of you who've been with me on here for several years, you know, my very first trial that I ever covered was Karen Reed. And the reason I got into it was because of this exact same thing. Remember, in the beginning, she was arrested for accidentally bumping into her boyfriend. They said she was doing a 3-point turn, like a reverse and a turn, in a snowstorm, accidentally hit him, didn't realize it. She drove off, and he was left to die of hypothermia in the cold without medical attention. That's how it all started. But if that's the case, you wouldn't have had all that external noise. The arrest was barely a blip on the radar. It was like, oh, this poor woman accidentally killed her boyfriend. That's so terrible. And then all of a sudden it turns into a murder charge. But then there's all this noise from the other people who aren't really supposed to be involved, right? All of a sudden there's deleted text messages, there's random Google searches, there's late night phone calls. Why would someone go to the police station at 1 o'clock in the morning? Why would they get rid of their dog? Why would they remodel their basement? Why would all of the people who are officers of the law, they know how important it is to give witness statements and to hand over information, why would they get rid of their cell phones? Why would a guy from the ATF take out his SIM card and drive to a military base to throw it away? Why, when they were being interviewed by police, they all insisted on being in the same room together? They couldn't be interviewed separately. Why is there no ring camera of the neighborhood where this happened? It happened right out in the street. Why is there missing video footage from the library that would have captured everything? Why don't any of these people's stories line up? Why can't any of them say exactly who was there, when they came, when they left? Why would they take her impounded car to that Sally Port instead of any of the other 2 or 3 that were closer? And we also have a cop who's a racist, sexist, anti-Semite who's telling his high school buddies 24 hours after he comes on the case that he's already solved it. She's fucked. Had it not been for all of that noise, you might have been able to draw this through line. Now, when we look at Tyler Robinson, this is why people like me ask so many questions, because it seems like a really simple through line. I mean, you really don't have a motive, because this, according to the roommate, this guy's never even mentioned Charlie Kirk's name before. But let's go with this story that he's this lone nut who just shows up with his gun and shoots somebody. Okay. But then why do we need to have him change clothes 3 or maybe 4 times, and he's extra judicious to make sure he carries 2 different backpacks? Is that really him walking with a rifle down his pants? Why wouldn't he just disassemble it, carry it onto campus, reassemble it up on the roof, and do the shooting, and then disassemble it before he jumps off, which apparently he did, and then reassemble it and leave it in the woods? He changed into the darker clothes because when you look at all the videos and you try to find a young white man wearing a maroon shirt in that crowd, well, guess what? There's dozens of them. Why would he change clothes when he could just blend into a crowd that would had an unusually high number of people wearing maroon? We've got videos that are alleged to be him arriving at campus back and forth 2 different occasions that morning. But the video up on the rooftop is just a blur, a black blob. It doesn't look like anybody, and you can't officially say that's him. They say that there was a screwdriver found up there that had his DNA on it, but body cam went out and no one photographed it and no one captured it. So we just have to take this one officer's word for it. The same officer who said he walked right past an empty holster on the ground. There's another bullet on another building that no one looked into. The ballistics from Tyler's gun, the bullet fired, are inconclusive as to whether or not they're a match for the one that was taken out of Charlie during autopsy. A handprint up on the ledge of the roof where he allegedly jumped off. We see it on the video. That's right where he jumped. But none of those fingerprints or palm prints match Tyler Robinson. The DNA is on the gun, of course, because it's his gun and it's wrapped up in his towel. Why would he leave it? Why wouldn't he just disassemble it, put it back in his bag, and walk off campus? Because at that point, no one was looking for anybody yet. No one knew who he even was. Why would you, as you're trying to remove Charlie from the situation, why would you remove all the cameras from the tent? Why would you rush in to do that? Wouldn't that be for the police? And why would you quickly pave over the crime scene? Wouldn't you want to leave that there so you could continue to get evidence? Why does the roommate's video, on-camera video, seem so vague? Yes, I asked him if what he did last night was true, and he said that it was, and he said that he was sorry. He doesn't mention that his roommate may have killed Charlie Kirk. He doesn't mention that. For all we know, there could have been any other context to that story. But the interviewer never asks. And why does Charlie's, I guess, entourage or security group all behave so strangely since then? Now, I don't know these guys. I've just seen random tidbits of some of their interviews. We've got a guy who's been interviewed who says that he was in the car. He was in the car that rushed him to the hospital. And he says they were performing CPR the whole way. And then when they got there was like this magic gurney right at the door. So they put him on the gurney. And this guy says, in his own words, that he got up on the gurney, got up on top of Charlie and cut his shirt off so that he could get them to put the defibrillator on his chest and talk about what sort of drugs should be administered. The guy's in an episode of The fucking Pit, and we're supposed to believe this. And then when he realized that they had the scene under control, he says he stood guard outside the door. You got another guy who appeared on a live Twitter thing the other night where he was part of the entourage. He says they arrived at the airport. They got in 2 different SUVs. He was in the one that Charlie wasn't in. And they were following each other. When he's asked, where did you go? He doesn't know. Did you go straight to the university? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, I've never been to Utah before. So were you sleeping? How do you not know what transpired that morning before the event? And which one of you all talked to Tyler Robinson? Because guess what? It was set up on the stand that Tyler met with somebody that morning. Which of you was it? Was it the guy that doesn't even remember how he got there? Wouldn't it have been easy if we could all just go to bed every night and believe that this was a lone gunman? This is a lone gunman that had some deep-seated, very top secret hatred of Charlie Kirk because he never told anybody about it, shows up, does the shooting, gets caught, and goes to jail. Wouldn't that be the easiest throughway? But there's all this other noise. That's why we continue to ask.